Welcome to our top 5 gainers and top 5 losers analysis for March 20, 2019. Today is Wednesday. My name is JC De Guzman and these are the 10 stocks that I'm going to discuss tonight. First is SECB, PHA, FDC, LTG, SCC. Those are the 5 stocks for the top 5 gainers list. For the top 5 losers, I have MBT, AEV, ABA, Now, and finally ZHI. So these stocks were chosen based on the size of their total turnover value. Okay, let's start it off with Security Bank. Security Bank closed today at 172 pesos and 70 centavos. Support remains at 159.8. Resistance is at 181.5. Today's green candlestick came with a strong volume that's above the 10-day volume average of SECB. Today's closing price is also registered above the 10-day simple moving average. It's bullish in the short term, but not yet in the long term. If we would like to see SECB moving in the long term horizon as well, then the price should break out above the resistance at 181.54 first. MACD also is already in the bullish line, although its distance from the signal line isn't that huge yet. So seeing the price breaking out above 181.54 will help MACD increase the distance above the signal line. The foreign investors actually sold about 48 million pesos worth of net foreign selling today, or worth of SECB shares. Security Bank still has a low risk level with its volatility score of 45%. So here's what could happen. Here's what could happen if the price will continue to register some volumes above the 10-day volume average. When that happens, we might see the price moving above 181.54. However, if the price will just go topsy-turvy from here, meaning to say if we will see some days with volumes below the 10-day volume average, when we see those inconsistencies, we might just see Security Bank moving or trading the range between 159.8 and 181.50. It will just trade that range, okay, when we see those inconsistencies. Now let's take a look at the volume, or the price, the range that got the biggest volume and the highest number of trades. This 172.7 is, this closing price is closer to the intraday high than to the intraday low. So the price points that got, or the range that got the biggest volume and the highest number of trades, cumulatively speaking, is between 172.6 all the way to 173. Again, 172.6 to 173. My overall sentiment on Security Bank is a neutral to bullish. I have some reservations because since the second week of January, Security Bank did not, it has failed to break out above the resistance at 181.5. So my reservation comes from the historical behavior of Security Bank, at least for 2019 year to date. Okay, but nonetheless, of course, if we see some continuities on the registration of volume above the 10-day volume average, especially if that happens with the green candlesticks, then that will increase the possibility of breaking out above 181.5. But until then, if you don't have Security Bank yet, and if you are only interested to trade the name in a short-term basis, my advice is that you do a test buy within that range that I've mentioned a while back. Okay, you do a test buy, or you wait for the price to pull back some more, a little bit closer to 159.8. However, if you are into Security Bank for long-term investing, and you already have, let's say you already have Security Bank in your portfolio, then topping up on your position is not a bad idea at all. Just make sure that you do not buy at any price. Make sure that you do a volume review first so that you can you can see which range got the biggest volume and the highest number of trades. If you don't know how to, feel free to post it inside our private clients forum, and I'll be the one who will publish my latest price volume distribution analysis for Security Bank. Okay, let's move on to PHA. PHA closed today at 1.16, a few points shy from regaining its position above the resistance at 1.18. Support is at 0.86. Today's green candlestick came with a volume that's also above the 10-day volume average, but I think that's not tall enough for the price to go back above the resistance at 1.18. Okay. Meanwhile, foreign investors registered a net foreign buying worth 3.6 million pesos. Net foreign buying still insignificant. Okay, and then for that reason, since the price of BHA didn't bulge big enough, MACD, that reflects on the trajectory of MACD still. MACD is still busy moving in a bearish channel below the signal line. PHA has a high risk level due to its volatility score of 88%. Okay, PHA is still moving in a bullish direction if we are to judge it based on the long-term scale, but when it comes to a short-term time period, PHA is still in a bearish channel in the short-term time period. Okay, now for the range that got the biggest volume and the highest number of trades, here you go. By the way, 1.16, the closing price, is also its intraday high. Now for the range that got the biggest volume, the highest number of trades, I see 1.12 to 1.15. 1.12 to 1.15. Okay. My overall sentiment on PHA remains, I'm actually bearish on PHA despite the appearance of this green candlestick. And even though it managed to secure a spot in the top 5 gainers list, I'm bearish on PHA because of the not so satisfactory kind of volume that I'm seeing on the volume histogram, and partly because of the bearish position of the MACD with the signal line. So those contributed to my bearish overall sentiment on PHA. If you don't have PHA yet, I would suggest that you wait for a pullback near 0.86. Okay, now if you already have PHA in your portfolio, make sure that you either sell in tranches or sell at once your trailing stop loss is hit. Okay, so there you go for PHA. Let's talk about FDC now. FDC closed at 16.10, and this green candlestick came up with a towering volume bar that's obviously above its 10-day volume average. MACD is not already, but it has continued its bullish movement above the signal line, and MACD has been bullish since when? Since around March 12, 2019. That was the day when MACD crossed above the signal line and the price rose above the 10-day simple moving average. Volume was also huge during that day. Okay, so if you are following my 10 SMA and MACD combo, you should have already entered a new position on FDC last March 12, 2019. FDC has a low risk level with its volatility score of 42%. For the 2019 year to date, FDC is on a net foreign selling mode. Support is at 13.6. For me to get a psychological resistance, I'll have to check where is the price at the 61.8% of the Fibonacci extension. So it's around 18.44. So this is the psychological resistance of FDC, 18.44, near that area. Okay, now let's take a look at the range that got the biggest volume. the highest number of trades. Again, FDC closed today at 16.10. That is the intraday high as well. So watch out for the price between 15.90 all the way to 16. That's number one. 15.90 to 16. Yep, 15.90 to 16 pesos per share. And you may also want to monitor 16.08 all the way to 16.10. So there are two ranges that I suggest you monitor tomorrow on FDC. Okay, now if you don't have FDC yet, I do not suggest that you do a test buy right away. In fact, my suggestion is that you check the price volume distribution again after the 15th minute of trading tomorrow. If the range that got the biggest volume and the highest number of trades is closer to the intraday high than to the intraday low, my suggestion is that you can take that as a signal or as a signal or as a sign that it's data-wise it makes sense to do a test buy on FDC, but only and only if that scenario happens tomorrow after the first 15 minutes of trading. Because if on the 16th minute you saw on your price volume distribution analysis that the range that got the biggest volume and the highest number of trades is registered near the intraday low, then it's a sign that some profit taking might happen soon. Maybe around 16.20 or 16 pesos per share. So that's how you should reevaluate the situation if you don't have FDC yet and you are interested to trade the name. Okay? Now, if you already have FDC, if you already have this stock, just make sure that it's either you sell earlier, you sell early, or you sell once your trailing stop loss is hit. Okay, you have the option to follow where your trailing stop loss is, or you can actually try to do some profit taking around this area already, 16.10 or maybe until 16.20. When I say do some profit taking, I'm not suggesting that you sell everything. Maybe you can sell some tranches as well. Okay, so that's it for FDC. Now let's talk about LTG. LTG closed today at 16.52. Support is at 14.57. Resistance is at 17.35. Today's ascent in price came with a volume that's above its 10-day volume average. MACD continues its bullish ascent. LTG has a low risk level with a 38% volatility score. Foreign investors meanwhile registered almost 9 million pesos worth of net foreign buying today. Year to date, foreign investors are net sellers on LTG. Okay, the price is already moving in the bullish direction in the short-term scale, but for me to say with conviction that it's already moving in the long term bullishly in the long term scale, then I would want to see the price moving above 17.35. Until then, I cannot say with conviction that it's already moving in a bullish direction in a long term time period. But until then, okay? This 16.52, by the way, is closer to the intraday high than to the intraday low. I would suggest that you monitor the range between 16.42, or not 16.42, but 16.5 all the way to 16.60. 16.5 to 16.60, that's the range that got the biggest volume and the highest number of trades. Okay, here's my overall sentiment on LTG. I'm actually neutral to bullish on LTG. I'm sort of thinking that profit taking might happen as when the price inches closer to 17.35, because historically speaking, the price bounced away when it hit 17.35 last December last year. That could happen again. So you may want to trim your positions, lock in some profits when the price hits 17.35. You can do it in tranches or at once. If the price is if the price continues to move up, even though it already hit 17.35, then it's better to just sell in tranches instead of selling everything at once. So you could still benefit from the ascent in price should it continue to move higher than 17.35. Should that happen with volume, so to say. Okay, so I'm neutral to bullish on LTG. So if you don't have a position yet on LTG, monitor that range that I mentioned a while back. You may want to do a test buy within that range. If you already have LTG, just follow your trailing stop loss, or like what I've said a while back as well, you may want to trim some gains when the price touches 17.35 or anywhere near 17.35. So that's it for LTG. Now let's talk about SEC. Semirara Corporation closed today at 23.20. It made it above the resistance at 22.5, the previous resistance, which is now the acting as support. But the major support still lies at 19.9. The major resistance is at 25 pesos per share. Today's green candlestick came with a volume that's a little bit higher than its 10-day volume average, and foreign investors participated the buying spree as they registered 36 million pesos worth of net foreign buying today. Expectedly, MACD continues its ascent above the signal line. SEC has a moderate risk level because it already has 51% volatility score. Now, there's still this probability for SEC to go back below 22.5 if, just if, this volume above the 10-day volume average won't be sustained. Again, that will only happen. Which one am I referring to? The price going back below 22.5. That will happen if SEC will fail to continue registering green volume bars above the 10-day volume average, at least for the next 2 trading days of the week. Okay, it's still not out of the woods, just like what I always tell. Besides, SEC is still in a bearish channel. It's still in a bearish channel. I don't even have to. Do I still have to draw a parallel line here, just to show to you that it's still in a bearish territory? There you go. It's still in a bearish channel. Okay, that's why later I'm going to say my overall sentiment on SEC. So again, 23.20 is the not only the closing price but also the intraday high. So monitor the price between 22.65 rather, 22.65 all the way to 23.20. That's the range that got the biggest volume and the highest number of trades. So in connection to this downtrend channel here, there's a possibility for, this is where I draw my overall sentiment of being bearish on SEC, despite the fact that it bounced away rather from the support at 19.9 about a week ago, or almost 2 weeks ago. In a long-term time period, SEC is still obviously moving in a bearish channels, and I'm not yet that convinced that SEC already has the strong positive catalyst for it to break out from one resistance to another. I'm still on a wait and see mode on SEC. Now, if you are interested to trade the name and you manage to enter a new position when it hit 19.9, that's good. Okay, that's good. It's either you sell only when your trailing stop loss is hit, or you rake in some profits when SEC hits one resistance level after another. Okay, that's one way to earn from SEC or on SEC. If you don't have SEC yet, my recommendation, especially for the new traders, is that you monitor the price near 22.5. It's critical that SEC should register a volume preferably above the 10-day volume average, especially now that it has already crossed 22.5. Because if it fails to sustain the registration of daily volume bars above its 10-day volume average, then that does nothing but to increase the chances of revisiting the support at 19.9. So don't just focus on the price, on the color of the price, on the candlestick. Focus on the volume as well in relation to the position of its 10-day volume average. Okay, so that's it for SEC. Now let's move on to the first loser in our list. Top 5 losers. Number 1, MBT, Metro Bank. Metro Bank closed today at 79.55. Support is at 75 pesos. Resistance is at 84.7. Today's red candlestick came with a volume that's above its 10-day volume average. The price, though, is still moving above the 10-day simple moving average, but below the 50-day SMA. I prefer, for those who already have MBT, what you would prefer to see here is for the price to break out above 84.70. That's that resistance. Okay? Because when that happens, I think the 10 SMA will already cross above the 50 SMA. Okay? MACD remains bullish, in a bullish position. On the other hand, foreign investors sold about 76 million pesos of MBT shares today. They sold. MBT still has a low risk level with its historical volatility score of 48%. Year to date, foreign investors are net sellers of MBT. Historically speaking as well, this resistance at 84.70 proves to be a strong resistance. Take a look at this one. Last April 2018, this resistance was also tested, but those attempts to break out above 84.70 happened to no avail, so they were unsuccessful. So that could happen as well. That could still happen again. That can still happen again, especially if there's a weaker volume when the price gets closer to 84.70. Right now, for the price volume distribution analysis, MBT, this closing price of 79.55 is also its intraday low. So 79.55 all the way to 80.20, that range got the biggest volume and the highest number of trades today. I repeat, 79.55 all the way to 80.20. I'm not suggesting that you buy MBT within that range. In fact, my suggestion is that you monitor the price lower than 79.55 tomorrow. You just might be able to catch the price near 75. My overall sentiment on MBT is neutral to bearish. Okay, neutral to bearish. If you don't have MBT yet, try to catch it near 75. If you already have MBT and you are into it on a long-term basis, my suggestion is that you check if your profit and loss is still above your tolerable risk. If it is, then you may want to do two things. It's either you hold your position or you top up. Don't top up at any price. Okay, it's either you top up near the support at 75 or you evaluate your price volume distribution analysis so that you will know the range that got the biggest volume and the highest number of trades, and that's where you need to park your buying price. Well, that is if you don't have much time to monitor the price all the way to 75, even when it hits 75. Because there's no guarantee that MBT will really hit 75 again. Okay, there's no guarantee. We can do so much but to monitor the day-to-day price movement of MBT, especially if you are into short-term trading. Okay, so that's it for MBT. Now let's talk about AEV. AEV closed today at 56.20. Aboitiz Equity Ventures. It closed at 56.20. It's at the brink of falling below the support at 56 pesos. Resistance is at 61.68, while the major resistance that I consider is actually 68 pesos. Okay, yeah, 68 pesos, this one right here. Today's red candlestick came with, oh, it's just a relatively slim volume because it's below 50% of the 10-day volume average of AEV. What does that mean? There's a possibility for the price to bounce away from 56. How did I know? How did I say so? Well, for one, if AEV investors are really convinced that it's time to sell AEV, then we should have seen volume above the 10-day volume average of AEV at least. But that's not the case, meaning to say they're still holding on to their position. Therefore, I saw a probability for the price to bounce away from 56. Well, that is based on the data that we all see as of today's closing. Tomorrow is another day. If AEV investors will think that it's about time to let go of their AEV shares, then we might just see a volume bar that's above the 10-day volume average of AEV tomorrow. What I'm stating right now is the probability based on up to today's data only. Of course, nobody has tomorrow's data yet. MACD remains in the bearish direction, and foreign investors sold about 17 million pesos worth of AEV shares today. AEV has a low risk level with a volatility score of 39%. 2019 year to date, foreign investors they are on a net foreign selling status. Okay, net foreign selling status. How likely is it for AEV to bounce away from 56 pesos? If we're going to judge it based on what we see on today's volume, there's a possibility for it to bounce away from 56.20. But if we're going to zoom in or zoom out rather the chart, there's another strong probability as well for the price's descent to continue, for the descent in price to continue, because there was also an expectation for the price to bounce away from 56 June 21 last year, but instead of bouncing away from 56, the downtrend continued all the way to 50.85. So, if and only if AEV won't treat 56 pesos as a bounce point, as a rebounding area, it might continue all the way to 50.85 and make an attempt to rebound from that level. So those are the two probabilities, okay, that I see on AEV. Again, 56.20 is the closing price, but also the intraday low. And 56.20 got 66% of today's volume. So my suggestion is that you monitor AEV below 56. Okay. My overall sentiment is bearish on AEV. If you don't have AEV yet, monitor it again below 56. If you still have it, if you know where your trailing stop loss is, then therefore you should know what to do now. It does not make sense still holding on to your AEV if the price is already moving below your trailing stop loss. Now let's talk about ABA. ABA closed today at 0.68. Support is at 0.61. Resistance is at 0.86. this is what happened here. Okay, and let me explain this. What caused the gap down? Yesterday it closed at 0.83. Then today it closed at 0. Or it opened at 0.66 and hit an intraday low of 0.62. What did happen? So here's what happened. Today is the ex-dividend date of ABA. It announced or it issued 10 centavos worth of cash dividend for every share. We know that any dividend issuing company, any dividend issuing company will have to adjust the price per share on the ex-dividend date itself. That's what we call dilution. Dilution. D-I-L-U-T-I-O-N. Okay, you can go to Google or YouTube and then search for meaning of dilution. Most probably you will get the article of Investopedia. So I suggest you study that, you read that part, so you will get a better understanding of what's this dilution that Mr. De Guzman is talking about on the video. So you would understand it. Okay, so that's what happened. Now, the volume is in fact above the 10-day volume average of ABA. And here's the thing. Here's the thing. If ABA closed last March 19 at 0.73, it makes sense for the price to drop all the way to 0.62 or 0.6. Well, today it dropped to a low of 0.62. But it managed to recover and close at 0.68. What does that mean? Meaning to say, some traders still liked ABA despite the dilution. Okay, so if we are going to factor out the dilution that happened today, it only means ABA should not be in the top 5 losers list. Okay, I hope you're getting it. Okay, MACD is bearish. It increases the gap below from the signal line below the signal line. Well, of course, the formula behind MACD does not consider the fact that a dilution happened today. Of course, it does not consider that. ABA has a moderate risk level because of its historical volatility score of 53%. Okay, let's take a look at the volume review. 0.68, that's the closing price. 0.65 to 0.68, that's the range that got the biggest volume and the highest number of trades. So, I am neutral to bullish on ABA. In fact, I'm not bearish at all. I am neutral to bullish on ABA. So if you would like to trade the name, try to monitor 0.65 to 0.68 first, tomorrow, within the first 5 minutes of trading. Try to position there. And when you position there, make sure that you calculate your trading stop loss proactively. Just in case the price will go south lower than 0.65, then you should know where you should cut your or trim your losses. Okay? But that's my suggestion on ABA. Monitor the price between 0.65 to 0.68 tomorrow in the first 5 minutes of trading. If you notice that there's a strong demand to buy the stock at a price higher than 0.68, then it would make sense to do a test buy between 0.65 to 0.68. Make sure that you do a fresh re-evaluation of the price volume distribution of the stock before you decide to buy or sell. So after ABA, we have Now, NOW, Now Corporation. So Now closed today at 2.5. The bearish saga continues, actually. And today's red candlestick came with a volume that's above its 10-day volume average. Judging it from, take a look at this one. I'm actually zooming it out rather, so you can see the bigger picture. As early as now, I can tell you that I'm already bearish on Now. I would be interested to evaluate the situation of now once the price hits somewhere near 2 pesos. Yeah, somewhere near 2 pesos. That's the price where, that's the level where the price might consider doing a rebound. But right now it's at 2.5. So might as well wait some more. Yes, you can add this one is in your watch list, but I would be interested to know if it's about time to enter a new position on now once it hits 2 pesos per share. Okay, so that's it for now. That's it for now. Okay, 2.5, the closing price. The range that got the biggest volume and the highest number of trades is between 2.45 and 2.50. Yeah, 2.45 to 2.50. That range. Nope, don't rush into the idea of buying it just yet. Monitor it near 2.0. Not now. Not now. Okay. So I'm bearish, like I mentioned a while back. I'm already bearish on Now Corporation, and my recommendation is that you wait for a pullback closer to 2.0. Last but not in the list, ZHI. Zeus Holdings closed today at 0.37. Volume is below the 10-day volume average. MACD maintains its bearish position. ZHI has a high risk level with a historical volatility score of 77%. Foreign investors are, I think there's a tug of war between being a net foreign buying or net foreign selling for 2019 year to date. Well, I think it's net foreign buying. If we are to consider the height and the number of these bars pointed to the north versus the ones pointing to the south. It could be the net foreign buying, but it's very minimal. Very minimal. So I'm not going to factor in the participation of the foreign investors on ZHI. Okay. For the price volume distribution, 0.375 and 0.385, that range get the biggest volume and the highest number of trades. My recommendation, my overall sentiment first, by the way. My overall sentiment is bearish on ZHI. My recommendation is that you wait for a pullback near 0.31. Yes, 0.31. Resistance is at 0.41. Immediate support is at 0.34. But I suggest that you wait for it near 0.31. Alright, so you've heard my technical analysis, overall sentiment and trade setups or recommendations for these 10 stocks today. I do hope I was able to give you some data-driven I was able to help you make some data-driven decisions for yourself based on your own risk tolerance and time horizon. So if you have follow-up questions about any of these 10 stocks, I advise that you post your questions inside our private clients forum. My name is JC De Guzman, and today is the top 5 beginners and the top 5 losers analysis for March 20, 2019, Wednesday. Thank you and have a profitable trading tomorrow. Bye for now.